My name is Manny, or Emmanuel Garcia. I, I'm a paralegal at this moment. Perhaps I'm going to pursue a degree in law. Uh, where I'm from Bolivia. In Bolivia especially, there's like more space. There's places to go. Whereas when you're a kid, like you see the same like beauty and as if you were an adult. These places are called miradores. And so when I was a kid, like I wouldn't know it, but my dad took me to these miradores before he left, and I would always remember the scene of the whole city. So like those like miradores that I went to, and I established like a memory of the whole like make out of the city as a kid. Like my childhood was really like I was privileged because that was one of the most beautiful memories when I went there. I belong to a certain class. There's like most societies here, they have classes like social class, social castes, and I didn't know it at that time, but I always wondered why certain people were treated differently than me. Outside of my grandparents' house and just going towards downtown, and you just see like lines of people with a certain distinct feature. They're just there and asking, begging, and you're here, and so you have to understand what's the normal, what's the standard, why is this? You always have to question that, and that's why as a kid I'm like, that question never got out of my head. I lived in Bolivia for like a total of 6 years, and then like a little few months over, so I was very young. As a kid, when I moved, I thought I was scared. I was scared not because I knew what I was doing, which I didn't know. I was scared because I thought I would never see my home again. So we were moving a lot during the journey here, and it felt like as a kid, like time like goes by like forever. You're like, oh. And so for me, I was just missing home. My mom said that we're gonna see my dad because my dad had already migrated here. So then we went on and got a tourist visa and we came. I think I'm still going through the withdrawal, of having to like accept that. And it's the memories, but it's also the fact that I understand that these memories, I value them, and I don't value them because I've always known. In fifth grade, I wanted to completely forget Spanish. I wanted to renounce everything. Because when it first hits you that you're going to stay here for a long time, you kind of get comfortable. You're like, oh, what? And not just comfortable, you start to understand that there's a reason why your parents brought you here. Like there's an assumption. The assumption is the life here is way better than life over there. And so for me too, having to accept that initially, I didn't care. I forgot everything. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, the United States is the best country in the world, and I'm proud to at that moment I thought I was American as it could get, right? An immigrant coming here and wanting to do a lot and keep winning, right? That's what I as a kid I used to read these history books, and they would always mention the United States like winning and wars and everything. It wasn't until I experienced racism. And then I started to say, wait, hold on. So wait, this is not, I'm not part of this. No, okay. So then I had to understand the world and grow up a little bit more and say, hey, like, value who you are. Because this country has not received you well in the beginning at least. The country being the state, the government. This is how I felt, in how minorities are created, there's a whole system to this. It's racism, it's white supremacy, it's colonialism. I'm still processing it. And it's I don't want to. I know the word trauma has been used a lot, but it is a bit of a traumatic transition to have somebody who was established in the world taken to another society, and then having to no explanation whatsoever. There's no explanation, and that's why when I went to university, I got a political science degree, finance, and Latin American studies, because I wanted to know their answer. You know, and a lot of my immigrant peers, like they also would like to explore these questions that they're never going to go away. Sometimes some people, they don't care, some people they do. I'm one of those that it does matter, because the more you're in this country, the more memory you have of who you are, the more I find in my personal experience, the more success people have. I identify as a Christian. I love to learn about Andy and Cosmovision, but the more I learn about it, the more I see how my Christianity complements. You know, and while I may criticize and I may interpret the Bible differently, I still know that what I felt is in my childhood is real, because it's my spiritual experience. You know. Now, the institutions that you know have the monopoly in what the Christian community says, I'm very, very critical of them, because it's a spiritual experience. There's why there's a lot of different types of Christianity, right? But I would argue that there's more, and there are every day you hear the Pentecostal. Marijuana church, you know, the gay church, you know, like the LGBTQ community church, you know, all these like churches, they come out. And it's all based on a spiritual experience. That's true. Correct? Nobody could tell you that what you had spiritually happened didn't exist, because nobody could go through that. So when I come across institutions, it's not that I'm an antithesis, you know, anathema to them. It's the fact that if I get a chance to say something, I will. When I think of my Bolivian identity, I now know how to isolate, categorize the terms of what that identity is based on my relationship to the state, my relationship to its people, my relationship to its government. So overall, my Bolivian identity, I've learned throughout my educational system, to my career, to take it apart. Take it apart, and the reason was why I'm pursuing native languages, you know, indigenous languages like Aymara, is because the voice of out of the motley of different identities in Bolivia, the voice of those who have been maltreated and have had systemic racism, injustice happen to them for years, their voice, literally their language, is not heard. And my Bolivian identity keeps changing, because I'm still like grappling with these questions, and I'm still learning Aymara. You know, my view of my Bolivian identity will change once perhaps one day I become very fluent in Aymara, right? I'll be like, maybe perhaps I call it differently, but it's the same idea. Some people call Bolivia Collasuyo, which in ancient terms was the territory from the south, and then Aymara, Colla is medicine, so it was the medicine territory. And that's how they see the country of Bolivia. They're like, no, I'm not from Bolivia, I'm a Collasuyo, because they still have that ancestral memory. I understand, I love the culture, I love the smells, I still remember them. And so when I dream about it, it's really sad and sometimes happy. When I dream of Bolivia, I have to convince myself that it exists, and I also have to convince myself that remind myself that what you saw back then is real, and what you're seeing now is also real.